Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our symposium, Evaluating and Adopting Digital Health Technologies for Veteran-Centered Care. My name's Jennifer Goldsack. I'm the Executive Director of the Digital Medicine Society, or DIME. For folks who don't know us, we are a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to advancing the safe, effective, ethical, and equitable use of digital technologies to improve lives. Today, I'm here just to orient you to the session before we hand off for opening remarks. And most importantly, I'm here this morning representing an incredible planning committee who have been meeting for the last few months to put together an extraordinary agenda for you today. I want to recognize this planning committee and perhaps most importantly, the interdisciplinary and inter-office nature of this team. This was truly a collaborative effort, and I think this will be borne out in the agenda that we bring to you today. To orient you to how we're going to use our time together today, I want to share a little bit about the planning committee's goal for the session. What we want to do here is come together to identify those core components and key considerations, thinking about a shared framework to support successful veteran-centered digital health innovation at VA. How are we going to do that? We're going to use a variety of use cases. What you'll see as I introduce the agenda is that the planning committee selected, I think, 7 extraordinary use cases showcasing digital innovation to improve veterans' lives from across the VA system. We'll use those use cases to examine, using tangible examples, what are the unique needs for successful innovation within VA's distributed system? What are those minimally necessary standards we need to have on deck in order to make good decisions so that when we start moving forward with digital innovation, we are both improving the lives of veterans as well as the experience and the efficiency with which the clinical teams, all of you on the line, can care for the veterans we all serve. And finally, where do we need to think about having flexibility to allow all of you to have the autonomy you need to provide the best care possible to the veteran right in front of you? We anticipate a fantastic discussion today, but certainly the work will not end here. The planning committee is dedicated to taking the learnings from our discussions today and using them to inform the development of a framework to support all of you in identifying, testing, and scaling successful digital innovation for veterans across VA. And also to come together and perhaps articulate a first cut at what a roadmap for digital innovation across VA might look like. So we have bold goals for today, and as we should. How are we going to craft our agenda? We will start with opening remarks in just a moment from 2 phenomenal clinician scientists who lead offices here at VA. We are honored to welcome Dr. Clancy, the Acting Deputy Secretary, to join us to give our keynote. And then throughout the day, we have 3 sessions where we will be featuring not only experts joining us from outside VA to share their insights into how we can think about successful digital health innovation. We'll also be learning from those innovators here at VA. We'll present use cases. We'll have panel discussions. And then perhaps most importantly for all of you on the line, we do have good time allotted for Q&A. Let's use this opportunity to pause and do just a little bit of housekeeping so that you all know how to engage. We'll be using the chat function throughout the day to, 1, allow you all to communicate with each other and panelists. And perhaps most importantly, we'll be using the chat function so that you can get engaged during Q&A. You can drop a question into chat at any time. At the end of each panel, we will work through those questions and pose them live to the speakers, to our experts, to the panelists. If it's at all possible, we'll ask you to ask your question live, and we are looking forward to a tremendous discussion today. Before I go ahead and introduce our experts delivering opening remarks for today, I want to just tee up a few themes that were really important to the planning committee in putting this agenda together, and perhaps allow you to have these front of mind as we work through our discussions today. It was clear to everyone on the planning committee that collaboration, whether across disciplines, whether across different offices and with external vendor partners, often when we're talking about sort of digital health innovation, is going to be critically important. We also need to think about collaboration and meaningful partners with veterans. And what you'll notice, that every single one of these panels we have for you today has the veteran voice front and center. That was incredibly important to the planning committee. We also need to think about the clinicians we're asking to deliver these innovations. Is digital health innovations designed with both the veteran and the clinician in mind? Are we thinking about equity at every step of the way? Are we making sure that these innovations in the digital era of health are serving all veterans, not the select few who may have the latest and greatest gadget, widget, or familiarity with technology? And perhaps most importantly, as a guiding principle for today, the concept that, what does good digital health innovation look like? It's certainly just not more digital, it's more solved problems. And with that, I want to hand over the reins to Drs. Rachel Ramoni and Beth Ripley, who will be joining us today to provide opening remarks. Rachel and Beth, if you'd like to join us, I'm going to stay on stage. There you go. And what I'll do is I'll hand off to both of you to provide opening remarks. And we will, I'm actually going to ask you to, let me see, let's get this video started. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves and then go ahead and open the show for us today. Really delighted to have you here and look forward to learning from you.
Hi, yeah, so I guess I'll start. This is Rachel Ramoni, and I am I have a long title, Chief Research and Development Officer, which just means that I'm head of research at the VA.
Hi, all. I'm Beth Ripley. My title is, I am still learning it. It's a new job, Deputy Chief for the Office of Healthcare Innovation and Learning. And I'm really excited to be here and learn today.
Oh, Rachel, you're on mute.
Oh, great. Thank you. Somebody needs to come up with an innovation for that. So a huge thank you to the planning committee and to you, Jen, for putting this together. I think it's an incredibly important topic, especially as we think about how to reach all of our veterans where they are, which is something that is near and dear to my heart in research. And I think as you think about a roadmap, and I love the practical sense of having a roadmap, the first thing I would tell people to do is to draw from what is known already. As far as I can tell, evaluating digital health innovation and solutions really isn't any different than evaluating any other innovations and solutions for veteran care. So I don't think we'll need to reinvent the wheel there, so we can focus on innovations. And I think it's great that Beth and I are both kicking this off today because I think the formal-ish definitions between research and innovation and research and quality improvement are there for a reason in some cases. I mean, there are regulatory distinctions, but it shouldn't keep us from working with one another hand in hand. So I think it's not just an either or, it's a yes and with research, innovation, and QI.
I love that. And I love yes and, which is kind of a major doctrine in the innovations world. And I think this is really all about the work. And when we think about what the goal is, which is to bring better solutions to veterans, we best do that together as a team. And I like to think back to rugby days, but for those of you who are not rugby enthusiasts, maybe soccer and taking the ball down the field and the real agile play, as you come against, challenges or blocks to be able to pass the ball back and forward. And, we're all on the same team under Dean, which is fantastic. And so when we can understand our colleagues, our innovation, our research colleagues, and our clinical colleagues too, being able to really work together and anticipate who is the best player to move the ball forward in each scenario really will get us to the end goal. And, that fluid and agile ability to be able to work back and forth really will drive the innovations forward. An important thing to remember, though, as we do this is that there is a time when fluid and agile should transition to a decision, a doctrine, a plan that really needs thoughtful work. And that's really, I think, the ultimate handoff when we go back to evaluating what we've done and really thinking about that in a way that is structured and resolute. And, in terms of the design world, I like to think about this, the engineers have taught me about this word design freeze, which is sort of frightening to me, but really important. And that's, after you've been iterating and coming up with the new ideas, there's a time when you have to commit. This is the thing. This is how we're going to do it. And that is the time where there is a strong handoff, I think, to our research colleagues who then can take the ball and help us understand how to really evaluate that final product to get a true answer on its efficacy for our veterans.
Yeah, and I love the idea of a design freeze because I think that's where research can come in, because our specialty in research is perhaps not the agility, but the rigor that we bring. And so we really are in the business of creating generalizable knowledge. So because it worked in this population doesn't mean it will work more generally, and that's where we come in. And one of my sort of pet peeves here, sitting in the Office of Research and Development, where we also have the central IRB, is that people somehow want to cram everything into the QI space to avoid an IRB review, and that really isn't a thing. The research and the QI have to work hand in hand. Once you've established that something is a practice you want to follow through rigorous research, then QI comes in, and it has to be absolutely like innovation and research hand in hand. And I think a great example of this design freeze work is the work that we did together and are doing together on the 3D printed swabs, Beth.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a perfect example of this, where early on we were trying to figure out how to make a 3D printable nasal swab to meet the disruption of the supply chains. And early on, never having done this before, there was a lot to learn in terms of what the material should look like, what the shape could look like. So we had a series of benchtop tests that we created. And an important thing to point out here too is that was created with the clinical stakeholders and with research from the very beginning, so that we weren't just coming knocking at the door at the end, right, talking, but we did use those benchtop tests to really quickly evaluate designs and iterate. And then once we got there, it was really important, and we realized there was so much we can't answer with a benchtop test, so much unknown in terms of how does it actually work with the patient. And this is the time where research came in to really help build out a rigorous multi-site trial that will now inform not only VA, but the world about the safety and efficacy of novel 3D printed devices.
And, I just think that's a great example of why we both sort of belong in this Discovery Education Affiliate Network group within VA, because it is incredible when you bring the agility of innovation and the rigor of research. We can go within essentially a year from not having anything to being well underway in a clinical trial that will inform 3D printed swabs just across the board. And so I see this meeting as a great coming together of different people, and the 3D printed swabs is an illustration of the good that we can do together.
Absolutely. And I think, as you go through the day today, just think about your colleagues, whether you're on, the innovations part or the research part, we're all on the same team. And so be looking for those great opportunities to pass the ball and get it into the hands of the right person.
Fantastic, Dr. Ramoni, Dr. Ripley, what tremendous opening remarks. And thank you both for your leadership with the example that you shared with the 3D printing for the swabs. such a critically important initiatives, particularly over the last sort of year or so, but also everything you teased out, you know, the focus not only on a meaningful and equitable solution for veterans, but also thinking about your clinical colleagues every step of the way. And most importantly, and again, I want to highlight, thank you for your leadership when it comes to collaboration. I suspect that's going to be a theme through the day, and you kicked us off brilliantly.